So if you didn't hear me disappoint you, let me do it again. I have no answers for you, but that's not why I'm here. We are going to have some wonderful speakers giving some examples of different places that they have got funding from. This is a session in 2 parts, so that's the first part, and then there's the coffee break, 30 minutes. That's in the middle. That's the very important bit. And then in the second part, we will go into workshop mode and some brainstorming. So that will be you with your colleagues thinking together. So, without further delay, I will pass to our first speaker, Combe. And if I could ask you to introduce yourself briefly, your organization, and then the type of funding that you're going to be talking about.
Let there be screen. Okay. Okay, I'm Combe Ferrand-Cooper. As you know, I'm a candidate to the board. No, that's not this one. So I'm managing a French organization that's called Acajou. It's a national federation of choirs, to give you an idea of the size, because I think it's also important. We are, I think, technically the largest choral organization in France, where you have 3.5 million singers, but we are only gathering about 300 choirs and maybe 6,000 individual members. So because in different countries you have different relation to federation and things. But we have a lot of contacts with the whole scene, but that gives an idea. Okay, I will talk about a specific source of funding, because Sophie asked me to do it, which is relation to some foundations. And I will talk about maybe 2 things. One foundation with whom we had some money once and then not, and then contact we have had with others, just to give some feedback on the type of experience we had and the relation that it implies. So I will start with funding we got from a foundation that's called the Fondation Bettencourt, which is actually the money from L'Oréal. I mean, it's very rich people. And they have set up a foundation that's dealing with different things, amongst which vocal arts and chant choral, but mostly focusing on supporting some choirs, giving prizes of excellence and so on. And so actually it was not me, the people managing Acajou before me, Jean-Claude Wilkens, which we saluted earlier, actually did the work. And they had a first round of discussion about funding a large project, which was about creating regional youth choirs in the whole of France, and then entered discussion for quite a long time with the people in charge. And that's the point I wanted to come into. Most likely in most foundations, you will be discussing with a fund manager or somebody in charge of the relation with potential fundees, like we are, and they have guidelines and everything, and you may end up creating a nice relation and helping them understand why your project is worth for them and worth for this person to defend in front of their board. And in the case of the Fondation Bettencourt, as a candidate, you don't have access to the board at the end of the day. Somebody is carrying your idea, your project, your dreams, and you ask for money, which makes, in a way, a difference. So they were able to kind of get the person in charge to bring this project to the board, which was a large project involving a lot of, it was 1.5 million euros that was asked, so not a small project. But the board was not receptive at this point, and so they created another project, and I arrived at the moment where we had to implement it, which was a smaller scale project dealing with training conductors in rural areas. There was the theme that kind of clicked, was in this universe of these funding people. And then the board gave some money to Acajou, and we had to create, to finance technically trainings in specific zones in France, which was not a big problem since we do that in any case. So that was a typical example of having money for something you pretty much already are doing, which is, I would say, a best case scenario if you look from the funding perspective. But it was still a second choice for us, because the best choice is you have an idea, something you really want to be able to achieve. You cannot, because you don't have the money. And sometimes with foundations, for example, or public money or whoever, you get the means to do it, and then you are moving forward. If you just get money to do what you already are doing, in a way, I think it's less productive. Just a short note, because we had to implement this project before COVID and during COVID, and then suddenly we were not able to do it because we had, for example, a congress for choral conductors planned in the project. And, well, we had to cancel it. And so, to cancel this type of funding is a process that's a bit different from the public funding money. So the public funding money told us, oh, you can do it. Well, maybe you can do it after COVID. We had no idea when it would stop, or just keep the money. That was the ask. But there was the foundation. They told us, okay, let's talk. And what can you do? What can you offer as a substitute? And we can decide very fast to let you do it with the money, and that's fine. We can change it in an easy way. And that was the case, because I was like, okay, so we did not a congress in Paris. We did how to call that, a multiplex. We had 3 cities with the limited number of persons you could have in a room, and they were linked by a video link, and it was kind of something, and people online, people in the rooms respecting the system. But the foundation said, I just called them and said, okay, can we do that with the money? And said, yes. So that was the good aspect of talking with somebody. They have a very fast reaction time as compared to some public funding bodies. So you have, on one hand, sometimes the process is complicated to get into it, but once you are in this partnership, they also call you and ask, how can we help? And they give you contact. So that was not too bad. Now, it looks very rosy and nice, except, and to stay on the same foundation, I've got in touch again with this foundation for other projects, but in the meantime, they have answered the same type of logic as the public funding. That is, now they have a platform where you have to enter in a form your project, and you spend hours filling a form before you can actually even talk to somebody, which in a way is for us not very productive, because it's very interesting to be able to talk with somebody before you do the work. So that's not so good. I'm actually now, actually I talked about it for 1 minute earlier, yesterday, about this project we have with senior singers. And we are now in discussion with foundations or mutual funds for retirees, and they are very interested in supporting this type of activities. And there, again, the dialogue is really about the content, the impact, and that's the only thing that's interesting for them. What will be the impact? How can it be spread? And so they are not so much talking about indicators, numbers, figures, but they want quality feedback. And so I hope I will be able to get some support, some funding for that. Well, that's it. Or did I answer the question? I had to improvise because I forgot my laptop on my office desk in Lyon. So I did it by head. You can ask if anyone has any questions. Do you have any questions? Yes, Jean.
This foundation, what are they asking in return for you?
Officially,
I can imagine that they only give you money for a project and so on, but I can imagine they ask something in return.
officially nothing, because also that's in French, the mécénat, they are not supposed to have any exposure back or whatever. So it's really a donation for them, it's special fiscal status. But then, if you look actually at what the projects, the main projects they are supporting are usually quite visible projects. Because yes, at the end of the day, they do make some advertisements on the project they're supporting with kids singing, blah, blah, which is good, but okay. But you have a very specific subset of projects they are promoting. But the funny thing is typically what we were funded to do, which is helping at the end of the day, creating choirs in rural areas. That was not even in their final official report. And we are not the only ones. So they have also projects that they keep, they fund, but they are not talking about. It's quite interesting. So some of them are more brilliant or visible, and they use, and so no, they were not expecting us any official written except reports, talks, and okay, to have a creative discussion about it, but that was it. Any other question? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Combe. Round of applause. Very good. Thank you. Was another question?
there's never a limit of the sum I'm asking for. I can tell you. No, I mean, it depends on their program, and so I haven't read the last call they have, but yes, usually in most foundation, well, either you don't have any information and you actually have to find a way to contact the people and answer the discussion. But yeah, for this foundation right now, I don't know. But some foundation, I know they will tell you this type of project that will be up to 20,000 or something. Either it's written on you, or you can access the information by talking with them. So maybe at least the very important thing is to find a contact with a human being that has a brain more or less wired on the issues you want to discuss, and then it can go quite efficiently. Oh, for an example, the girl that was dealing with these issues at the Fondation Bettencourt, she moved to one of the leading choir in France as administrator, and we had a very good relation. And she called me and said, I think we should make progress or projects with the Akajoa Federation. So these contacts with clever people, they last forever, I think.
Very good. Round of applause for Co. Marvelous. That was our first speaker. Next, can I ask Marco to come up? And once again, if you could introduce yourself, your organization, and the type of funding you're talking about, which I hope you remember.
Hello again. So I am the COM in Italy. That means that I'm the manager of the National Federation of Choirs. And just to have very few numbers, we have 20 regional associations, then 2,800 choirs, 120,000 singers. So we are the main Italian choral network. And I would like to talk to you what happened in the last years in our country. As you know, you always need money, and I don't know in your countries, but in our country, the cultural ministry is always late or more than late, so you never know how much you will receive for the annual activities. For example, for this year, we don't know yet. We are in November, so that's fine. What? And we will receive the news, I think, for Christmas. So it's a Christmas present. Then you have 5 days to do everything. So it's quite impossible. But there is a but. That in the last years, they made a new law. It's the parliament. They made a new law in the social politics ministry that is connected with the work job ministry. And what's happened? That they decided to join all the non-profit world in one register. Before that, we had regional registers, national registers, cultural associations, social associations, other kinds of networks, other kinds of non-profit associations, so a mix of everything. Now they have one register. What does it mean? They said, okay, we put all these associations, I think we are 130,000 associations nowadays, and they put a lot of money for them, but you have to, they required something. It's not exactly what they, in the case of the France, they required that you have to do activities in at least a number of regions, that you have to involve at least a number of people, that you have to involve at least a number of partners. So it becomes a little bit difficult in the beginning, but they give you a very good quantity of money. That means from 250 to 650 every year. So you can apply every year, and it is much better if you apply when you are a network. What does it mean, network? Not in our version, but in the version of the law. That means that at least 100 of your members are in the register. So nowadays we had 800 members, so single choirs that are in this register and are connected with us. So we are a national network because we have more than 500 members. And so it's much easier for us to apply, and it's much easier for us to win the call because it's only objective points of evaluation. So they give, in the end, they decide to give money to the associations for doing what they are asked to do normally. Of course, you have to do a list of things, but the most important is numbers. So, for example, we have 20 regions, and we will do activities for 1 year and a half in all the 20 regions. That means that you have to involve your partners, your members, regional members, the choirs. So it's a big effort because we have to coordinate all the activities. It's impossible for our office. We are like ECA, so not many people. We are 2.5 people working in the national office, but we are very well connected with all our regional offices. So they have to work for us. For us, that means for them. We collect all the ideas of the regions, and we present one call. We were very lucky, and the project we presented yesterday was our first project in this way. 2 weeks ago, we presented our second project, that means on 2024 funds, and we will receive the result, I think, in 1 month. And in this case, it's not like the cultural problem. In this case, you can start when you know the answer. That's a good point. And you can decide also if your project has to be 12 or 18 months project. So we ask it for the first 2 times, we ask it 18, because you need time to start a little bit. And then probably we will see what happens. But I think that since I know perfectly how many points I will receive, I hope that not other organization will receive much more points than us. And I think that's a good way. Of course, it depends on the law of each country. But my suggestion is not only to speak with culture ministry, but to try to find solutions also with other ministries. We have contacts with the education ministry, but they don't have any fund for nothing. You can do some projects together, but for zero. That's good in some ways. Of course, you are in contact with schools, but it's not sustainable in another way. But with social politics, I think that in the future also it will be much more important. Also because we in our plan of all these activities, of course, we are considering also some social aspects, not only the normal activity of choirs. So, but you don't have to do what they want. The important thing is you have to do as much as possible to give an idea of as much possible people involved in your project. It's not important what, but who. That's a good way. I hope that you can find it in your countries too. Any question? Jean.
Besides this legal money, do you have also private funds?
Yes, we have also private funds, of course, because this project, I didn't say one thing, that it's 70% co-funded by the ministry. We have to put 30%. Okay. And so, yes, we have some private funds, but they are a very few part, and it's a small plus small foundations, like 10, 5, something that I think it's not so interesting to change the life of an association. And another point is that if for private, you intend that participation fees, we organize some events for members, and of course, you have to understand that money raise money. That means that if you don't have projects and you don't have income from projects, you can't report for asking money. You understand me? And so, for example, we have our festival for school choirs that has a budget of around 400,000 euro every year. And it's not important that you gain money from the festival. We don't, but in the end, the cost is the same as the income, but we have 400,000 euro of invoices. Then we can ask money to the ministry for other things. So you know, that's the part of private and some other events that usually our members pay to come to a workshop, pay to come to a festival, pay to come to. Of course, it requires a lot of work, but if you don't do that, you don't have the other side of the medal, and you can't co-fund other projects. That's the point. Where I can find the 30% of 600,000 in this way with our own funds. Yes? In this case, it's a little bit complicated. No, you can ask for it, but you have to sign a lot of documents that your board members and all the regional members has to sign, and sometimes it's very difficult to have the signs on these papers because there is a lot of money. If we want to have the money in advance, we have to complete a lot of documents, and sometimes we decide to do it, sometimes not. And it depends how is the general situation of our accounts. And sometimes it's much better and easier to ask to the bank, to ask for money to the bank. And they usually gave us quite a good part of money. And of course, another point that is different from ECA, for example, is that the German law doesn't allow us to have final advance, no? In the end, I don't know, they have to be in equal, 0. At the end. We don't have this. And so, if you are a good association, you have to take in account that also your financial aspects. So you can do that 10,000 this year, 10,000 next year, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, depends on. And after 10 years, you will have 150,000. That means that you don't need, this reduce your cash flow problems. Because if you have like a capital of 100,000 euro in the bank, you can wait a little bit more to receive the money from the calls, from the funds that you receive from the ministry. But you have 0, like Europe accounted, it's much more difficult. And also because the money, it's, if you have 1 million report in the end of the year, 1 million, you can, 10,000, it's like 1%. So it's not so much, but in 10 years, it became easier to have the cash flow in a good way. That's the point. And it's the same as before regarding the, if you have much more invoices, you can ask for much more accounts, much more funds. So it's not so easy, but fortunately, at the moment, we have a good situation in this way. Good.
Thank you very much, Marco. Henrike, can I invite you to the stage? We can go up and go on the chairs. I kept them specially. That's lovely, isn't it? So, Henrike, can I ask you to introduce yourself and your organization?
Yes. Hello, I'm Henrike. I work for the German Youth Choir Association. I'm the deputy manager. And in the organization, I'm responsible for all the children projects. And I was asked today to talk about small funds. So I would like to give an example about it in a project that I'm responsible for, which is called the Singbus. It's I translate it as like a singing bus, a choir bus, basically, which is a project for children choirs where we tour around Germany with the goal of at least visiting every federal state once or twice a year, however the funding looks like, whatever the funding looks like, and what's possible there. And exactly, there we visit choirs or schools, and we carry out like a festival, a one-day festival for children to experience community singing and to get access or to get to know the choir that's rehearsing there in place. So we work closely together with the choirs in place and create together with them a full-day program in this national-wide project. And the Singbus, we started the project in 2021. I was not there at that time. I started to join the project or the association in 2022. And since I have been responsible for the project, we went through very different phases. There was a time where we had like a funding for a full tour throughout Germany by the ministry, funded by the ministry. But then there was also last year where I actually had to fund every festival itself with small funds, which was of course a huge challenge because also you always have personal costs and things. But yeah, exactly, and this is why I'm actually sitting here. I told Sonja about it, and then I received the request to talk about it a little bit.
And so this was, these were activities that you already had, that you were already doing, and suddenly you found yourself in a situation where you needed to find other alternative funding for this. Where on earth did you start?
Luckily, there was already some structure. We work a lot with small funds also and different kind of funds in the organization. But in general, I would say Google is the place to go. So you do some research about it. We did some research about it to look for foundations, to look at possible donors, private donors, to look at, of course, sponsors. I'm not that experienced with sponsors and not yet too successful with sponsors in terms of company sponsors, which is also not the small funds anymore so much. And of course, foundations, small foundations, especially. Did I forget something? I wrote a few notes so that I actually tell you everything I want to. Yes, exactly. So, and then, but not only with the keywords of funding for choir projects or funding for music education. So to me, what I learned during this research is almost every fund can suit to your project. You just have to find the little matching point and point it out, or yeah, you can actually work with the benefits of singing a lot, because there's luckily, we are in the situation that choir music has so much impact on different levels, and we can actually point it out. So some topics that I have found sponsoring or fundings, donations, for this project is, for example, the topic, of course, around cultural education, but then also health, democracy building, then looking at the target groups. So then last year there was, that was already a year before, anyway, there was also an umbrella organization giving out funds for projects with 4 children from Ukraine. So what we did is, okay, we started 3 festivals where we visited schools with, we call it welcoming classes in Germany, so where these kids who came from the Ukraine to Germany got a German class and of course went went to school. So we visited them, and we did a program. We worked together with choral conductors from the Ukraine, and we did then festivals for the whole school, of course, and the local choir, but also a special program then for the children in Ukrainian language. So that's so you you looked for the target group, and for us it's in general children and young people. And then another option, or a very important option within this project, is we go to specific places. So we have the possibility to ask local funds, for example, banks in Germany. Banks often have an own foundation, or they have they have to, or they want to support local initiatives and projects for children or for in the cultural field. So those ones we also included, and worked closely together there with the local choirs and associations to raise some fundings for that. Yes. So generally, where I looked, it was just research, but also signing up to newsletters from umbrella organizations. For us in Germany, there is also some organizations who especially organize also funding opportunities or collect them for associations who work voluntarily. So also there are platforms where you can find already a lot of options, opportunities, and then I have an Excel sheet and I check them out. I check them again and again. But even if it's hard, okay, to say, oh yeah, then I go for a funding for environmental. I did not yet get an environmental funding, because this bus is actually not environmental friendly. So, but then there will be another turn where the foundation chooses another topic, and then it might be possible again. So it's always about being updated, and the easiest way is to sign up for a newsletter where you feel, okay, there's a nice collection where some other people or associations prepared it already, or to have your own Excel sheet and just go through it.
One final question on workload. I mean, this sounds like a lot of work monitoring all of this, but then I'm also thinking about the application moment, like when you're asking for funds, and I don't know if that's forms that you're filling in, or if you're getting in contact with an individual person, like Combe was saying. And then, I mean, is there any reporting expectation that you get from some of them or not? How's the workload of this process?
It's actually very different, and some are very friendly, some others less. Exactly. So there's always a need of a report. We all know that there's some kind of report, and there's always some kind of application process. Different than in what Combe said in terms of there's a sponsoring and you have a lot of talks. In this cases, you mostly have to write an application, introduce your project, your goals, the target group, and all this. Of course, there's the workload to me feels much higher than when I apply for a big fund, and I have a bigger sum eventually to carry out a whole tour. But also, it differs from we call and we introduce, and it's super friendly, and we write down, we send them our project description, and then we get the feedback, and in the end we send some kind of a report answering a few questions. Others are being more complex, so it differs a lot.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The question was, as a national organization, if we can apply to the local funds. So sometimes it's just about where the project takes place, and sometimes you need to be registered there. But as we are working very closely together with the choirs and the associations in place, we just do the process together, actually. So we write, the workload is all on us, of course, but then we, for example, include, to me personally, and it's super important that when we do that, the choir also gets a benefit out of it beside the festival. So we include some money for their usual rehearsal or something, which is always good also from the project perspective because of the sustainability part of then for the possible sponsors. Yeah, exactly. But we sometimes just then apply together. And I feel this collaborations it's good, of course, to realize the project, to support financially also the choir in place, but also we had some examples where there was members who told us, like, I've never really tried because I didn't know how, and we have then we went through this process together, and eventually they were like, okay, this was a big learning for me and the choir, just to be confident and to ask for the money, and eventually they were like 7,500 euros from their initiative. So there's a huge benefit also for the choirs in place, because they learn then also how the process of getting through this funding, applying a funding, and also writing the report and stuff when we include them, yeah, that there's also a benefit in that term.
Anyone else? Yes, I see another one over there.
Municipalities means the ministries? With the city. Oh yes. With the. I would say yes. This is since I'm dealing with national-wide funds or organizations, or we are being the umbrella organization, so we are not so close, or we don't deal a lot with municipalities, but we always do recommend that to the choirs, because I think in Germany the case is that municipalities, they do support, but a lot of choirs do not know. So there is the possibility, especially to have funds which are not connected to projects, which don't need to be innovative. And for the structural aspects, to get a little bit of a support there. I don't know exactly how high it is, or also how exactly it is organized, but I know there is some opportunities.
Anyone else? I don't see anyone, so thank you very much, Enrica. And then if I could invite Shetel and Besim up to the stage, please. You're getting 2 for 1 on this one. We're talking about Creative Europe projects. Do you prefer to stay there? Yes. Okay, no problem. I move forward. So, can I then first ask you each to introduce yourself and your organization and the project that I've asked you to talk about?
Well, I'm Kjetil, and I work for Norsk Sangerforum, which is a national, one of several national choral associations in Norway. We have about 400 member choirs, approximately 11,000 members, of which 2 are individual members. So most of our members are actually choral singers or conductors or choral managers. And I guess you want me to say a few words about the Swan project. This is yeah, you have already done it. Yeah, but so this is the project that I'm going to say a few words about, the singing with additional needs, which you have been learning about this morning.
You asked for our organization?
Yeah,
What?
your organization and your Creative Europe.
Okay. Yes, as I told in the morning, we are a small organization that coming from a small country, because always you have to imagine Albania is like a region of France or a region of Italy, like Puglia, for example. So the dimension you have to take in mind always when we are speaking for our activity and also for projects. For our activity, as I mentioned in the morning, we have in the south this traditional Albanian isopolyphony, that we are many, many groups that in each village we have singers. The north we have polyphonia, that is in Shkodra and Tirana, that we have around 20 choirs altogether. It means that we are not like in France or in Italy or Germany. In the point of view of the European project, we created on 2017 a choir with blind people, impaired vision choir. That means people that are blind or malvoyant, with singing together with people, normal view people. It started okay for 2 years, and then it came COVID. Everything disappeared. To 2021, we started with a small project, regional, Sanity, Sarajevo, Niš, Tirana. And we started a collaboration always to the visual inclusive choirs. It was approved by a project RICO, Regional Youth Support, and in 2021, I wrote a concept note for VIC, Visual Inclusive Choirs. And we prepared, we uploaded to the platform of Creative Europe, and we won. It was very nice when we won, but in this moment it started the difficulty that we had before making application. We had a partner, Tactile, in Germany, our choir, Joy of Singing, in Tirana, and visual choirs of Kardisa in Greece. Just before making the contract with European Commission, the Tactile choir in Germany, they say, oh, no, we will disappear. We will not continue anymore. It was a great adventure because there are not many choirs in all Europe with such particularity, with visual impaired people. And in the same time, asking, for example, to one organization in France, in Strasbourg, Vue d'Ensemble, I write it to them that we are winners of EU project, but we lost a partner. We need a partner. Nobody believes us because all the message that we have sent, they think they are truffatori in Italian. And with big difficulties, we making telephones to France in Strasbourg, and in Paris. And finally, in Strasbourg, we find it good understanding with Vue d'Ensemble, and they accepted to be partner. For 2 years, we are going very well with the support of EU Commission, that they give us support about 80%, and 20% we have find it without difficulty to the support from Municipality of Tirana and Ministry of Culture. It is a very good experience, and we are not now thinking for the future. In January, we will apply again for the second phase, and we hope, because during 2 years, we have developed joint performance. It means performance with the choir of Vue d'Ensemble Strasbourg, Joy of Singing of Tirana, and VIC, Visual Inclusive from Cardisa, Greece. Some joint performance in Tirana, in Strasbourg, and in Greece. In the meantime, we have developed a network with different partners in Europe, like Valencia, Allegro, that Christian explained yesterday. We, thanks Kjetil, we have made some workshops about how to printing music score for blind people, because when they sing, they read by touching partiture. And it is something very, very particularly, but there are some steps, small, it looks small, but very difficult to make all together to sing. Now we have created a network with, thanks to Spain, Bulgaria. Bulgaria is they have a very good choir of blind people, of Peter Matev. And with Germany, with Italy, we asked many times for Feniarco, but doesn't exist a choir with blind people, because without a partner, similar partner, we can't develop a cooperation. So for the second phase, we have developed this network that we will do with education and to grow up the skill of blind people. And we hope that we will win the second phase. Yes.
Thank you so much for introducing that. So my first question to both of you is, why Creative Europe? Why did you think to apply to this funding scheme? And maybe just very briefly, in case anyone is not familiar with Creative Europe. Creative Europe is the EU funding program for culture and media. They have a section on cooperation projects, which can be in different sizes, small, medium, large. And that's both size depending on how much funding you're applying for. So small is 200,000 euros of funding. I think the next one's 500,000, and then, or maybe even 1 million. Anyway, it's more. But it also is about the size of the partnership. So you have to have partners who come from different countries that are Creative Europe countries. These can either be the EU countries, it can be the EFTA countries, and then there are other countries that pay into the Creative Europe program to participate. So, for example, Tunisia is a viable country to partner in a project. And so, yeah, the number of partners you need also changes depending on the size of your project. So, yeah, why did you choose Creative Europe, and did you have to create new activities? Was it a way to fund something new, or was it something you already had that you were trying to get funded?
Well, in our case, this was something we already were working on. So for Norsk Sangerforum, it's basically to make sheet music accessible for visually impaired or blind singers. And we had already done some work within that subject, funded by Norwegian national funds. And of course, when we thought about applying Creative Europe, it was to develop this further and also to make it accessible for the rest of the world. And we also feel that by showing institutions and politicians in Norway that we are running a project that is co-funded by the European Union, it gives us some street cred. and we already experienced that we have national umbrellas, etc., that contact us when they want to make things happen. And so we see not only like the financial support, but that it also strengthens us as an individual organization. And Basim and I, we are not members of the European Union. I come from Norway, Basim comes from Albania, but our countries are partner countries in Creative Europe. Yeah.
Yes, I understood. Yeah. The word creative is very huge, but it is very, very difficult to be creative now. Is not easy. And we think that to take something that is very small, but we can develop, and we may be a small creative. And we find it okay, with the blind people, is a good opportunity to have something that never happened before. And to be creative, they have been Da Vinci and others. We find it small things, and by small things we can arrive to a destination to create something. Small things, but I think that for my experience in the concert that we have done in Strasbourg, in Tirana, we had, for example, the Dean of University of Arts, and after the concert he was crying. I said, why? It is very emotional to listen people that don't see, and thanks of Christian that he suggested a song of the song Italian movie La Vita è Bella, the Life is Beautiful. And when we have sung with our choir, all people, it was very emotional, because blind people, they see the life by the music. This is small thing, but very, very significant. This is all.
And so this is the positive side, the why Creative Europe. It's also very interesting to hear about how it's not just for financial benefits, but actually all of the sort of the advantages that come with it in terms of networking and connections, and the prestige of the organization as well. This is very interesting. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Henrika. On workload that comes with these projects. I mean, frankly, I should be talking about this, but but I'm going to see if you agree with me about the workload of these projects.
I always agree with you, Sophie. The application process was a bit challenging. There's a lot of things to learn. With your help, I've learned a lot. There's a lot of acronyms that you cannot imagine what are. You have to, yes, exactly. You have to log on to different portals, and you forget the password to one of them, and you think it's that one that you're going to log on to when it's actually the other one, etc., etc. But it is worth it. And Creative Europe projects get assigned yes, a project officer. And these project officers, they really want to help the applicants and the coordinators and project managers, etc. So at least we are very lucky because our project officer, she is a saint. St. Catherine. It took a lot of time, and sometimes these portals, they are offline for a week, etc. And you forget what you were actually going to do or where you could find that thing you were going to do inside them. But our EU project officer is quick to respond when I'm having problems, and so staying in touch. I mean, answering emails, asking questions, etc. That's the main thing.
You say everything, but I would add only this, that by a project of Creative Europe, we have enlarged our cooperation and network. That is very important in choral music.
Excellent timing. Very good timing. Does anyone have any questions before we go to coffee? I don't see any, but if you do want to talk about the possibility of Creative Europe projects, then please don't hesitate to talk to any of us. And yeah, I think also with the future of the European Choral Association, we'll be looking at maybe more cooperation projects. So if there is something that you would like to propose and you have ideas that you want to internationalize, then again, come talk to me and we can see what we can do. And now it is coffee time. We got half an hour, so back here at 4:30, please. And we will get a bit more active. Thanks. We will now, you can stay where you are, but we will become kind of general discussion now. You can expect what's going to happen now. If one person from the group could report back a little bit, that would be lovely. Who would like to go first? Then it's done.
I have a question. How do we want us to report? Do we want to be on both sides of the equation? So like,
I would say you don't need to give everything, but if there were particular key points you found particularly interesting in your discussion, because you have maybe 2 minutes each to do this. 2 or 3. I might stretch to 3. There you go.
okay, dear friends, we are the, whatever the name, I would just make up the name, we're Slavonic Music Choir in Scotland, okay? And we gather singers. Our aim is actually to promote music from all these different countries, about 8 countries in other parts of Europe. And our aim is also to gain new singers. So we are just a normal choir. And so we are thinking about talking to the embassies of the countries of the music we are dealing with. So now we thought about what the ambassadors may be interested in. So they're driving forces and restraining forces. That was the game. Am I correct? So you help me there because I haven't all the notes. So the driving forces would be to have the music, of course, from the country, composers from the country, would be to have participants from this country in the choir that they could interact with, to foster international cooperation. That could be something positive for an ambassador. Remember, these people are international and diplomat profiles, so they could be interested to see that. Of course, the ambassador and the embassy and the country would like to have some media exposure in Scotland, but also in their home country. That's for the benefit of the ambassador itself, its career. He wants to move to Washington. He doesn't want to stay in Scotland, of course, so he needs exposure. There's driving forces could be to use or piggyback on anniversaries, significant dates, the Day of Independence or whatever, these countries. Where did I forget? No, that's good. Yeah, and then we can use also offering the ambassador to sing for his private events. I mean, that's kind of arguments for the wedding of his daughter or something. Something. Restraining forces that we have to look into before addressing them, because that's the game, would be making sure that we are not carrying too strong a political messaging in a way, in one way or another, because I remind you, we want to address several different countries. So we have to be a bit careful. We have to be careful and look into the different relations they have, not to enter into a diplomatic war situation and do something stupid. We have to then be aware of the protocol questions. If we have two ambassadors in a concert, who's speaking first? I don't know. These kind of things. Okay, then our strategy. I still have half a minute. Ah yes, then we will have to look. We have a strategy, and we will have, yeah, I'll take your paper. Yeah. Our strategy is to start by researching. Sorry. Ah, yes. No, it's fine. Oh, yeah, you do the strategy.
All right. Okay, then. 10 seconds for the strategy. First, let's check the available ambassador fundings and find diplomatic connections, and then use the nationals of those countries for networking through the embassies. Create a coral profile, determine the funding strategy. So are we asking money for one concert only? Are we asking to fund our season? Are we asking to travel to one of those countries? Whatever. Get an action plan. Is it for developing our choir to a bigger size? Or is it a whole world tour of performing? So after the action plan, establish a personal connection with the ambassador so that they would be willing to fund our project. This is our plan. Thank you.
Nice. Good job.
Remember, our aim is to find new singers, so please join the choir.
Awesome. Who's next?
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, we're looking at philanthropic funding. We actually didn't quite do all the pluses and minuses as you asked. We looked at where the money comes from and who owns the money. Is it private money or public money? We mentioned Creative Europe, that's public money. So we have to beg for that. Private money, you've got to enter into the language of business as opposed to the language of politics for public money. It's got to have a win-win situation for both the philanthropic funder and yourself. I mean, you know all this, but you also have to be aware the risk factor of your project or why you're looking for the money. And you've got to be aware too with philanthropic funding is, you know, if you're looking for a national philanthropic organization and you're an international group, you don't fit. So the fit has to be right. You've got to make your sponsor look good. And that's really why philanthropic funding is there. Public money funders like Creative Europe advertise because they have been tasked. They're an agency and they've been tasked to spread out money. And the only way they can do it is actually by applications. But the private money one is you enter into a business-like deal with them. You've got to make a clear goal. You don't go into the ins and outs of your artistic prowess. The minuses there is, do we trust this group? And what helps with that, if you're a member of a bigger organization, say like the European Choral Association, and this in fact adds to how you can disseminate and spread out on their behalf. So where their logo goes to somebody else. And that's where, you know, philanthropic funding, there's two things that is different from a Creative Europe, for example, is you have to go looking for it. They don't advertise they're going to give money, whereas Creative Europe do. And what will it do for the company? And one brilliant suggestion we had here is to use AI to focus on the language of business when you're doing your application. And I mean, I use it too, to tidy up applications or anything else. And The other thing is you've got to see what they're looking for. Are they visible? Do they want a visible acknowledgement of giving you money? Because sometimes that can open the floodgates and they don't want to sort of let people know because they don't have time to look at applications, or do they want to keep it private? I'm passing to Camille now for what I've left out.
But to say everything, yeah, it was excellent. Just this is
Very good, very good. Lots of interesting questions there. Who wants to go next?
Axel, can you help me? This is Axel. Thank you. This morning we saw the presentation yesterday of Start to Sing in Belgium, and so we thought maybe that's a good suggestion, because that's who we are, the singers in Europe, and forming the choirs. So we thought maybe Start to Sing is a good aim to how to make it bigger. So this Tuesdays we have a conference in Holland with a union, and maybe it's a good idea that we start to sing in Holland too, and do this main topic. I'm a conductor of a choir of 180 singers, and the 70% of my singers never sang before in a choir. And they're all 40, 50, 60, and they never sing before in a choir. So my goal is that everybody wants to sing. So how do we find them? And then maybe it's a good start to all the members of our association, that in several years we have the Start to Sing in whole Europe. That's an idea. So then we go to the bank and say, help us, because we have a big promotion. Is everything okay? Yeah. And so why should the bank help us? Then, okay, there are new customers for promotion, maybe we can reach everybody, so that's very inclusive. So maybe so a little bit this way. Singing is healthy and social responsibility for the bank. We can find everybody, and we get new communities. So there's a new business for the bank going on, because all these choirs need some bank relations. And what's that word? Help me. Innovation. No, this is not. This is an A. Innovation. Yes. But we know banks. They don't do anything. So why should they not do it? Now, the first answer always, they don't respond on the mail, or they don't pick up the phone. And maybe when they did pick up the phone and they answered the email and you had a good conversation, and they say, yeah, there's a risk. We don't see the money back. We don't do charity, or it's not fitting in for the bank also, or there's not accountability for the process. So that's the things we were very serious, and we think maybe it's a good goal for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, last group. One volunteer to speak, please.
Please help me, because you brought, and I would be. Okay, so we started with question 0, which was who we are, and we decided that we are friends, and we wanted to fund the benefits of singing, and we wanted to go to Mercedes, but then we came out with some problems, and then we had to be flexible. So the first problem we reached was that Mercedes won't fund an idea. They need something to sell, they need some tangible result. So we decided, instead of selling them the benefits of singing, we will sell the implementation of benefits of singing in every festival. Then we started thinking about what can we offer to Mercedes, and we get quite a lot of pluses from our side, because apparently we are sellable. So we I don't speak that much English. Okay, sorry. What were the... Okay, so we started with how are we better than any other advertising agency? And the answer is that we sell like, emotional connection. Because if we are putting a Mercedes in our promotions, in our materials, then people's not thinking just only about the Mercedes. They also thinking about singing, and that kind of creates an emotional bond. Then, of course, we are very sustainable. Singing is environmentally friendly, and we are all about crowds, right? We are bringing people together in a bus. Yeah, sure. Then we have big numbers of participants and people we can reach. And we were thinking that, of course, there is always an option, for example, to host an opening concert of Europa Content Festival on the Mercedes Arena, and then we can call it Mercedes-Benz Europa Content Festival. But then we realized that when I was talking about like a lot of people, but 500 people is actually not a big crowd for Mercedes. So we just realized that we will have to use the same materials we produce with their funding for like maybe 30, 40 years, and then it will work out. And then we just realized that our people in our festivals are not exactly rich, so they might not be the target audience of Mercedes advertisement. And then we had to go to some alternatives and maybe talk to Fiat. Thank you.
Wonderful. Absolutely perfect. All right, then. Thank you, everyone, so much for all of your thoughts and contributions. Of course, when I was first given the task of organizing this workshop, it was kind of difficult to think about because every country, every place is in its own situation. And so we can't say, oh, here's a fund you can apply for. Or, yeah, there's a great philanthropic organization that you can go directly to. Like, we don't have that. So the point of this session was really to give some examples, as we had, of things that have worked in other places. Maybe it gives some inspiration. But really to get the thinking process going, getting to understand someone as a funder, and then identify if they're a good fit or if you need to go and talk to Fiat. I mean, perfect. So I hope that this has been useful to you, that you got the mind, the thoughts flowing, and that this will give you some inspiration for the future. Thank you so much for participating so wonderfully. You're a lovely group.